Hello, this is Martin Gore from Depeche Mode.
Hi, this is Dave Gahan from Depeche Mode, and you are listening to
My Nerd World.
It is My Nerd World, and welcome to it, Depeche Mode, the podcast. I'm your host, Jon Justice. Merry Christmas. Early Happy New Year to you on this expected, unless something major happens between now and the end of the year, and this closing week, this will be the final episode of Depeche Mode, the podcast for the year. And what a year it's been. The most incredible year to be a Depeche Mode fan since I was a kid. I can't thank all the friends that I made this year doing the podcast, from, of course, Matt, and the amazing time that we had at the Denver show and spending time with him and his family, to Rob and Jeff and Jon Justice and all the other friends that I've made along the way, everybody who's written into the show, everybody who has listened to the show this year. It has truly been a wonderful, merry 2023 Depeche Mode year. I don't even know how else to say it. So much has happened with the release of Momento Mory and this tour, and it's been an absolute joy to talk about Depeche Mode and hear from you every single week. So thank you so much for making this year truly, truly special. And who knows what 2024 will bring for our favorite band, Depeche Mode. So I do have some items to talk about a bit this week as we close the year out, including your listener feedback, which we'll get to in just a moment. But I wanted to wrap up with an article from NotFest.com written by Ramon Gonzalez, talking about one of the final shows on the third leg of the North American tour that took place in Los Angeles. The duo of Dave Gahan and Martin Gore proved legendary, capping a week of festivities in Los Angeles with a stellar crowd showing that underscored the band's iconic catalog and undisputed legacy. Trekking in support of their 15th studio album, Memento Mori, the perennial hitmakers Depeche Mode have spent nearly all of 2023 spanning the globe, completing 3 international legs of their Memento Mori World Tour, in addition to the significance of the run supporting such a landmark release. The tour took on an added magnitude of being the first outing since the tragic passing of beloved collaborator Andy Fletcher. Wrapping up the most recent leg of their triumphant globe trot, Martin Gore and Dave Gahan held court for what became a full week of Depeche Mode festivities in Los Angeles. First, for 2 sold-out nights at the Kia Forum in Inglewood, then a sold-out weekend at Crypto.com Arena in downtown Los Angeles. The homecoming of sorts even included the city christening at Los Angeles City Hall, where local officials declared December 13th of 2023 to officially be Depeche Mode Day, marking a new tradition and underscoring the band's long-standing relationship with the City of Angels. As for the band's first night at Crypto.com Arena, there was an element of pageantry that vaults Depeche Mode into a category all their own, opening the selections from their latest album singles on My Cosmos Is Mine and Wagging Tongue offer evidence that the tandem of Gahan and Gore dared to explore new creative terrain as songwriters and composers. Adding in Speak to Me and Ghosts Again, Depeche Mode managed to integrate new classics into their set of greatest hits seamlessly, with songs new and familiar prompting the same pop from the Capacity Arena. Among some of the greatest entries in the lexicon of pop, the quality of Depeche Mode's catalog is undisputably evergreen, sourcing singles from various eras of the band, essentials like It's No Good, Policy of Truth, and an anthemic rendition of Everything Counts, Black Celebration, and an emotive World in My Eyes dedicated to the memory of Fletch, resonated as colossal, invoking a sense of ceremony with Gahan and Gore at the helm. Arguably the band's most effective selection of the evening, Gahan proved commanding on Stripped, compelling an entire arena remain fixed, put their phones down, and bask in the glow that radiated from the stage and blanketed the arena. However, the set wasn't all pomp and circumstance. In fact, one of the most memorable instances on the night was an impromptu one stemming from a fight in the crowd that forced Gahan to halt in the middle of Never Let Me Down Again. Crouching down to address the situation, Gahan proved eternally cool, asserting his voice of reason, urging security to calm down and defuse the situation with a good ribbing. There's enough of this blank going on in the world without you guys. The crowd roared and then roared louder when the band restarted the track from the top. Completing their victory lap with Personal Jesus, it was apparent that the audience was bearing witness to something legendary. Depeche Mode remained defiant, and this night was a testament to that. I remember earlier in the year with you writing in who had seen the shows already and talking about how special the concerts were. And it was something that I had the privilege to experience in Denver in November, and you were right. It was truly special. But again, looking at the year as a whole, the whole year's been special. It's been an incredible year to be a Depeche Mode fan after all of these decades. And these concerts really did prove to be special ceremonies and celebrations of this amazing band. I don't think it's the end. I know a lot of you agree. I've heard from you writing in, TalkShowNerd@gmail.com. We'll get to your listener feedback here in a moment. I don't think it's the end. We still haven't heard those 4 produced tracks, and there's a listener feedback, an email that I'll share with you that talks about that a bit. So we still have some new material that's already done waiting to be released, and so we were told that we would get this before the end of the year, and it hasn't happened. Maybe we'll get a Christmas gift. Who knows? But once it's all said and done, I'll be very interested to see where Martin and Dave land. Was this the end? Did they decide they want to go out on a high note, or is there still more left in the tank for this band? I think there's more left in the tank for this band. For me, the only question is how soon do they decide to head back into the studio? Still got a ways to go with this next leg in Europe next year. So the Depeche Mode story as it relates to Memento Mori remains far from over. TalkShowNerd@gmail.com is the email address. I always appreciate you writing in, and we have several emails and listener feedback to share with you this week. First, we hear from Dave Theofolt. I just wanted to start by saying sorry for the long email, but I wanted to share our experience from Sunday's show. First off, the energy. It was fantastic. The crowd was singing, yelling, crying, and chanting. Los Angeles brought it, and I couldn't have been more proud. Martin sang Home and But Not Tonight. By far the best he's ever sounded live in the 13 times I've seen them. David, what can I say about David? He was freaking spectacular. His voice was better than ever, and I cannot believe it still sounds so magical live. He was so energetic and looked so happy performing for us all. He is truly the best man alive, best front man alive. The set list was absolutely perfect. The songs flowed perfectly from the music, and the lighting was superb. Now some cheesy stuff to share. This was my 20-year-old daughter's first time seeing DM. She was singing and dancing with her old man and said several times to me that she couldn't believe how good he sounded and how much energy he had. Many times she looked at me with tears running down her face. She leaned over to me and whispered in my ear, "I get it now." My son is 17, and this was his first concert ever. He was screaming with me and singing along with the songs which he knew. He was sitting on the other side of me, leaned over and whispered into my ear, "Thank you for this, Dad. Now I get why you call them your religion." Now my wife. We have totally different tastes in music, and 24 years ago when we met, I introduced her to Depeche Mode. She likes them, or as I tease her a lot, she puts up with them. 23 years ago, we broke up. She always told me that after our breakup, she sat in her room for days, and all she listened to was Home, crying her eyes out. When Martin sang Home, I looked over at my wife, and she was bawling her eyes out. My daughter was hugging her, and she was crying also. I was sitting between my kids, so after the concert, we sat there for maybe 15 minutes, and I asked her why she was crying during Home, and she said, because I was thinking about what this song was for me 23 years ago, and now here we are, all together with our grown-up kids. We made it. Then I cried, hugged it out with my family, and thanked them for experiencing this with me. John, this was one of the most rewarding moments with my family that I will cherish forever. The band brought it. The magic was in the air, and they looked like they were having the time of their lives up there. Thank you thank you, Depeche Mode, for your music, the soundtrack to all of us devotees and our lives. And thank you, John, for what you do. It means to us, the listeners, more than you will ever know. David Theofold. David, I thank you. I don't deserve any of that. I do this. I'd be doing this if nobody listened. I feel blessed that people have enjoyed it the way that they have. And just thank you for sharing that. It's that crossover of the emotion and the power of Depeche Mode and how it transcends into our lives and has for so long. So thank you so much for that. All right, let's get some more of your listener feedback. The Grazone writes, the world we live in, like Devotional, was shot on videotape and not film. Therefore, it would not be Blu-ray quality. The band should have done the Strange release 20 years ago, and then the film wouldn't have degraded. David Hudson also writes, Live in Hamburg had the best versions of Somebody, Everything Counts, and Master and Servant. Going back to last week and talking about the release of Strange and Strange 2 and how I wish that we would get The World We Live in and Live in Hamburg in a proper release. But alas, because of what was mentioned here, I don't think it's going to ever happen. Andis writes this, real happy to have seen Depeche get this honor and recognition, the Depeche Mode Day in Los Angeles. I'm still wondering, however, where those 4 extra tracks of Memento Mori are. When will they be released? I've heard Martin state in 2 different interviews about a half a year ago that another 4 songs will be released by the end of this year, which would be right now. And he even named one of the songs Life 2.0 in one of the interviews. There are still no news about these upcoming songs, and fellow fans doesn't seem to care much about these songs, which to me is a little weird, considering Memento Mori was a great album all in all. I don't think a lot of people are aware of this. I mean, the hardcore fans and those of you that listen to the show clearly know about these 4 unreleased tracks, and I was told that they would be coming out at the end of this year, so unless we get a last-minute drop around Christmas, maybe they're holding out for something next year that they can grab onto, considering the tours still going on and the success of the album. Do any of you guys know anything about the release of these upcoming 4 songs beyond what was said several times? Also, if the fandom starts to be a little bit excited about these songs, I think it might speed up the release of them, or at least not slow the release down further. It would be a great Christmas gift from the band, I agree. What do you think? Thanks for another good DM episode. Yeah, I don't know. Unless we end up getting a Christmas present for these releases, I have not heard anything further. That being said, I'm not complaining. We'll get those songs eventually, and it's been an amazing year. Amy from Worcestershire writes, I enjoyed your review of Depeche Mode Day and the Strange 2 release. Having watched the footage of DM Day, I have to agree with you that it felt somewhat awkward at times. I'm also trying to decide whether the councilwoman, Monica Rodriguez, introduced Dave as Dave Garn or Dave Gahan. She said Dave Gahan. I thought it was the latter, and if so, I do wonder if a piece of Dave's soul dies each time his name is mispronounced. You'd think after 40 years and hours of footage and interviews, people would get it right. Perhaps a one-time collaboration with Vince is needed to re-record What's Your Name? Gahan. It's gone. In case you don't get another podcast in before the holidays, I hope you and the other friends of the show have a fabulous holiday season, Amy. Well, Amy, I got one in. Thank you very much, and thank you for putting a smile on my face as well. And again, thank you to everybody who's listened this year. It's been a blast. It's been an absolute blast from every single aspect of it. And I never expected when this year started to make as many friends, to reconnect with old friends like Rob, who still to this day is driving me nuts about how we ran in the circles, but we're never really all that connected back in the 90s. Just absolutely incredible. And of course to Matt and his family, just capped off an absolutely epic year. All right, before I let you go, if you do want to support My Nerd World and Depeche Mode, the podcast, I do have a few ways you can do that. I've set up a coffee. If you want to, if you're not interested in purchasing my books, but you wanted to support what I do here on My Nerd World, it's at ko-fi.com/Jon Justice. So if you go to coffee, ko-fi-fi.com, look for Jon Justice. It's there. And if you wanted to go and support the show, you can do it that way. I set that up a long time ago. It's been sitting in the liner notes of the show. I've just never mentioned it. However, if you want to support the show and get something in return and you like science fiction, I really hope you'll check out my science fiction space opera series. I've mentioned this on every episode. There's 7 books in all in the series. It is just a fantastic... Let me back up. I'm not going to speak for myself. It is a fun, action-packed thrill ride. Space opera saga. It's got references to Depeche Mode, plays part in the underlying themes. The stories feature references, both direct and indirect, while telling an exciting space opera saga. I wrote the series for adults, but it's great for kids ages 11 plus. If you're looking for just some fun science fiction adventures with a lot of action, romance, I hope you'll check out my space opera series, EMBARK. It's 2172, where flight culture has replaced car culture. 2 rival mega corporations, D Corp and Enercon, have made interstellar travel possible and space flight available to the masses. Taft Guardia spends his weekends at an abandoned flying field, training with his squadron of pilot friends and the woman that he longs to be with, Keith Amaro, after receiving a cryptic message from her late aerospace engineer father. They embark on a perilous journey, unaware that an industrial accident is about to set off an apocalyptic chain of events. As the ruthless Sin Argum of D Corp attempts to exploit the disaster and seize control, Taft and Keitha are thrust into the middle of humanity's fight for survival when they discover what may be the only hope of stopping D Corp's evil leader. Don't miss this fast-paced and action-packed science fiction adventure. You can pick up EMBARK Book 1 today, ebook, hardcover, paperback, audiobook, and free on Kindle Unlimited. Go to Amazon.com, search for Jon, Jon Justice, or mynerdworld.net. If you got some vacation time, go pick the ebook up. Give it a read. I think you'll like it if you like science fiction. Thanks again for an amazing 2023. I can't wait to continue talking about Depeche Mode in 2024, and I hope that you'll still be around and listening heading into next year. But thank you again for just an amazing 2023. I hope wherever you are, you're happy, you're healthy, and you're safe. I'll talk to you next year. Bye.
Hello, this is Martin Gore from Depeche Mode.
Hi, this is Gahan from Depeche Mode, and you are listening to
My Nerd